So this is a giant 1.5 foot tall Bokoblin Talus. It's constructed out of wood, styrofoam, foam clay, construction adhesive, filler of some sort, Mod Podge in copious amounts, and a lot of paint. Oh, and magnets, of course. So there's magnets connecting every joint on this talus. This thing comes completely apart. It can be reassembled with the same magnets. It's standing under its own, on its own two limbs, four limbs, if you want to say, count the arms. Yeah, it had to stand up this way. It had to be this size. Why did I build it to this scale? So the person I built it for owns a lot of 2 to 3 inch models for Breath of the Wild, a lot of the toys. If you're going to build something to scale to those, it's going to have to be gigantic. I didn't see any point in building a little 4-inch model. I could have easily built something that was static on a base and sat on a shelf and looked pretty, but this thing was meant to be played with and take some abuse. So the point was to make it as durable as possible, to make it as close to the creature in the game as possible, the way it functions. So, I mean, magnets seem like the best, or at least most obvious choice to me. These all kind of have a candy-like shell around them, so they still make a kind of a nice, crisp noise when you snap them together. I wouldn't say these things are rock hard, pun intended, but they're rigid. I mean, they feel like a hard plastic. They're not too heavy. They're pretty light. The whole thing probably weighs less than a pound. But yeah, you can assemble it all with the magnets. They come together pretty easy. They're pretty strong. Not so strong that you can hurt your fingers, but you know, how to be child safe. The top section will mount onto it to the lower section. There's an upper torso, lower torso, upper arm, upper leg, lower leg. If you want to call them legs, they're more like biscuits, stone biscuits, if you want to call them that. I wouldn't say this took me more than a week to build. You know, just working a couple hours in the afternoon, every day after work. I don't do this professionally. This isn't something I do 24/7. That'd be a fun job if I could, but no, this is just more of, I just happen to be good at building stuff. So anyway, you can tell he stands up on his own, 2 legs. You don't have to put the arms on. It's pretty sturdy. That was planned. Took a lot of planning, but it was planned. Arms pop on, and with the arms, yeah, they add some stability. Once you got the arms propped on there, it will hold all the weight of that upper section pretty well. Here it is with the Hinox in front of it. So if I had to guess, I want to say the Hinox is about 10 inches tall. He's got 2 different methods of gripping toys. So the left is an open grip, the right is a closed grip. This one, unlike the Talus, is made entirely out of EVA foam and foam clay. The EVA foam, if you look at the build video, is more of a substructure. Probably the legs, the main portions of the legs and the arms and the torso are actually all hollow. You could probably cut a hole in it and fill it with a cup of water if you wanted to. I mean, it's that hollow. It's a pretty sturdy, one-piece, non-posable figure. This one's coated with some kind of cause seal. I forget what it's called exactly, but it's a sealant you put on the foam clay to keep it flexible so that it doesn't crack or get brittle. And I have to say, it's held up pretty well. This thing's buried under toys when I found it. It's been in my nephew's possession for 2 months now, and hasn't taken any damage. There's some kind of weird markings on it, different color. I don't know where it is, paint or something. I found some lipstick on the back side of it. Don't know why. But all the limbs seem to be okay. Everything's intact. Nothing's cracked. The finish hasn't flaked off. The paint's still just as bright as it was when I painted it. I would say the paint job is kind of quickie. We'll call it like a field level paint job. This is just for scale. So you got a Hot Wheels car, a Mario, a Nintendo Switch controller, the Hinox, and the Talus. So you can get an idea just how big that big boy is. Yeah, he's huge. He's gigantic. So there's going to be some obvious comparisons to another YouTuber by the name of Alex, who just happened to build a blue Hinox and just happened to have built a Bokoblin Talus. Well, that is not an accident. The reason that I built these isn't because I felt like copying him, is because my nephew, who's a gigantic Breath of the Wild fan, is also a fan of that channel. And when he saw those two things being built on that channel, guess what? Hey, Uncle built me a Yiga mask. Maybe he can make me this. And so his mom contacted me and said, hey, how about it? Do you think you can build him a Hinox? Sure. And about a week later, there he is. Yeah, again, it took me about a week. Those whiskers are actually made out of foam clay, believe it or not, and they're separate pieces that were inserted. And I don't know how they've managed not to fall off or get chopped off or break, but yeah, they're all still there. This thing is super, super sturdy. He's got a little bit of flex to him. That probably helps. The fact that it's light, so if there's nothing brittle in there or hard or heavy that's going to break. I've thrown it across the room when I was building it just to give it a little test, and yeah, this thing is amazingly sturdy. You can kind of tell they use some, furry miniature sculpting techniques for the loincloth. You play 40K or any other game you like to modify your models with, you probably recognize some of the techniques I used. So yeah, that's his Kung Fu grip. I think originally it was supposed to have a tree branch in it, but I figured, he could probably find a twig out from the backyard or something and use that. Why sculpt one? And it'll hold a variety of things, even stuff that's got some weight to it. There's a metal socket, like a 10mm or 12mm socket, lodged in its groin area. I cut it open, and in the lower torso, kind of where his butt is, it adds a little bit of leverage. He was standing just fine without it, but if you wanted to put anything with some weight to it in any of those hands, it needed something to kind of counterbalance that weight. So, yeah, it's in there. But like you can tell, the hands have a little bit of flex. You can kind of wedge things in there without too much of a problem. And the finish is held up. Nothing's rubbing off. It's doing pretty good. Pretty good. So the next project, if that Reddit poll I put out is any indicator, is probably going to be a Kilton. Kilton with complete with his balloon cart thing, whatever you want to call it, to the same scale as this Hinox and this Talus, which means, yeah, it's probably going to be another gigantic model. I figure it's going to take me at least a few weeks to finish that. Just depends on how busy I get at work and how much time I have to, afterwards to actually work on these things. Like I said, not a full-time job. This is just something I do for fun. Been a while since I sculpted anything. I've definitely never shown off anything I've sculpted, so this is kind of a first for me. I can't say, honestly, I'm sure everyone who's watching this is bored to tears listening to me talk about it, but Hopefully, once I get better at video editing, maybe writing something a little more clever and not just talking through a video, I can give you a better understanding of how I make this stuff, what my process is, and maybe make it a slight wee bit more entertaining for everybody involved, right? So right here, I'm just trying to show just how strong those magnets are. You can kind of pull on them, and I mean they hold up really well. I forget where I got them. Probably picked them up on Amazon. They're about 1.25 inches across, flat discs, neodymium magnets. Bought them in a pack of 20, I think. And I want to say there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I want to say it's about 18 magnets in this thing, roughly. Maybe less. 16 to 18 magnets in there. You'll figure it out. I mean, if you watch the video long enough, you can probably figure it out on your own. Count them out. But yeah, that's it. That's my gigantic Talus build. You can play with it, pose it, pretend it's walking, smash stuff up with it, tear off an arm and throw it at something like you do in the game, or it does in the game, rather. Oops. The next one, like I said, next build's going to be Kilton. I'd like to build some robots, hence the name of the channel, but I haven't gotten around to putting any together. Might make some super high-tech looking ones, or maybe just some kind of quirky little short ones for friends. I'd like to see that thing coming at you. A Hinox on top of a giant Talus. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that coming at me. Sturdy. Well, like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. See you later.